Are you a farmer or butcher ready to master direct-to-consumer marketing and meet success? Then you're in the right place. I'm Jared Hawken, the founder of ChopLocal. Each episode of this podcast features interviews with farmers and butchers who have built successful direct-to-consumer meat businesses, and they're going to share their secrets for success with you. From actionable tips to inspiring stories, this podcast has ingredients you will need to succeed in the meat business. After the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social. And check out the rest of our educational resources at ChopLocalUniversity.com. Now, let's turn it over to my business partner, Katie, to get started.
Before we get into this next episode, I wanted to let you know about one of our other resources that we offer. If you are in a hurry to see meat marketing results fast, then the Meat Commerce Essentials course is perfect for you. It covers everything that you need to know to sell meat online successfully, and it's presented in short video snippets to get you the info that you need to put into action as quickly as possible. For a limited time, we're offering our podcast listeners $100 off the course using coupon code POD100. That's POD100. Just visit ChopLocalUniversity.com to find the course and be sure to enter POD100 at checkout.
Okay, well, welcome to our monthly office hours. Normally, office hours are for our ChopLocal vendors, and a lot of times we talk about things that are specific to ChopLocal. But in this case, the topic for today is generally, useful for all sorts of people in a food or farm related business. So we're going to be talking about using AI for your farm or meat business. We oftentimes start with welcome and team updates, but I think we'll skip that and go straight into talking about AI. So first thing, we're talking about artificial intelligence. Sierra and I and Jared, who is on, we are probably daily users of AI tools. That does not mean that we are experts by any means. Use it to help us in our own businesses. I think some of us use it for personal reasons as well. We found it to be very useful when we are using it properly. But I want to start out just by talking about some of the risks that come along with using AI. So the first one is confidentiality and privacy. Depending on what platform you use, whatever you upload to the AI tool could be used to train their platform. So for example, if you upload financial data, it could potentially use that information later to say, farms have this type of, revenue or this type of profit margin or something like that. Now, I primarily use ChatGPT, and I ask ChatGPT, are you using the documents that I upload for training? For example, if I upload survey data and someone else asks a question, someone else asks you a question that was on that survey, are you giving them my information? And they said that no, my information stays within my account and it is not used for training the platform, and it is not used for other users. But that is something that you want to check into depending on what platform you're using. The second thing, the risk of using AI is losing your authentic voice. So if you are having AI do writing for you in any way, shape, or form, it can lose some of the flavor that comes out when we are writing for ourselves. Example that I thought of today is, it is my daughter's birthday. Posted on Facebook, happy birthday to my best girl. That's the way that I said it, to my best girl, and AI, if I had asked AI to say, write a happy birthday post for my daughter, they might have said something completely different. Happy birthday to my sweet daughter, happy birthday to the sweet girl, but that wouldn't have been, that's not the way that I wrote it. It's a different voice, especially I think if you have, I think of people living in the South that might use y'all. I'm in Iowa, so I try not to say y'all because it sounds a little funny when I do. But, there's different words that we use for different things, and there's just different styles of talking, and you want that to come through. So that is a risk. The third thing, which I think is really important, is that AI is not perfect. There are inaccuracies. and it can provide you with misleading info. There's actually something called hallucinations where it just makes things up completely. And I've seen that happen several times. An example of that is I was working on a website for a project, and we had asked it which template should we use using this website builder. And it said, use this template, use this part of the template to do this section, use this part of the template to do that section. Those parts of the template didn't actually exist. It was hallucinating that and adding that in, even though those things didn't exist. The other thing is that it has a bias towards agreeing with you. At least ChatGPT does, for sure. It is, I think in some ways, that's why one of the reasons that it's very satisfying to use is that it kind of makes you feel, Sierra's shaking her head, like kind of makes you, like it pats you on the back and is like, that's so smart, that's so important, you asked such a good question. But it will also start to kind of, you know, if you said, this is what I did, was this a good idea? It will tell you why it was a good idea, unless you specifically prompt it to say, what should I have done differently? What could I have done differently? And we'll talk about through this some ways that you can do that to make sure that it's not just confirming what you were thinking. And then misleading info, cooking instructions, health claims, farming practices. I mean, a lot of the myths that are out there, one example is it is widely recommended that you leave your meat on the counter for 45 minutes before you grill it to bring it up to room temperature. Leaving it on the counter for 45 minutes does not bring it up to room temperature at all. And the center of the steak, especially, barely changes temperature whatsoever. But AI is going to continue to perpetuate that myth because it is so widely used on the internet. That's also the same for some things like health claims and farming practices as well. There are also concerns about the electricity and water usage and the environmental impact. And I think that this is something that everybody needs to sort through for themselves. But Sierra, do you remember a few weeks ago, you came to me and you were like, yeah, I heard that it uses a bottle of water every time I ask it a question. So your response was, can you tell everybody what you basically said?
I said I need to stop using it for like personal questions, like asking it what paint colors would look better in my house or stuff like that, and keep it more work related and use it more for productive reasons.
Right. I think it's okay to do fun things like sometimes, like we've all used electricity and gas to do something fun in the past, like go on a family vacation or even go out to eat or whatever. But if that is a concern for you, one of the things that you can do is that a lot of things like your email, different platforms that you're using that have automatic AI tools built in, a lot of times there is a way to turn off those tools so that you're not just, you have a little bit more control over that usage. And then the last kind of risk or concern that I hear from people is building data centers in rural areas. Especially here in the Midwest, it seems like we have plenty of water and we have plenty of land, and these data centers apparently take up a lot of space. I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that it's always a concern about what is happening to our farmland and what it's being used for that might take it away from farming families. And so this is something that I think people, especially in rural areas, need to think about because it could be affecting our small towns in our areas. So with all of those things in mind, let's talk about actually using AI. We like to think of AI as a fast assistant. It's not always right. It is not always an expert, but it is a fast assistant. And one of the things that I like about this assistant is that because it does not have feelings, I can give it feedback and tell it when it's done a bad job or not followed my directions properly, and I don't have to worry about it being upset with me. That might sound a little bit silly, but I love to work with people, but I have a hard time sometimes giving them negative feedback. That's a personal thing for me. And so I could hire an intern, but then if I have to tell them that their graphic design is really not great, that or their writing needs a lot of work, like that is hard for me. But I can tell AI, try again. You didn't do this the way that I wanted to. And I don't have any qualms about that. Okay. That being said, I do often say thank you to AI because we joke that when the robots take over the world, we want them to, have a good impression of us. So the second thing here is we use it for customer service type things. If you do have to have a difficult conversation, it is really helpful to help you draft an email reply to a customer or a response to a negative social media commenter. And it's also really great for writing FAQ questions and answers. Sierra, do you have any other examples that kind of fit under that customer service piece there?
I definitely
Sorry, I don't understand.
Sorry, Alexa went off, or my Siri. I definitely like the idea of using ChatGPT or AI to help write emails, especially if it's kind of like giving feedback or kind of like navigating maybe like a difficult conversation. Gosh, I think it's also great if you're like writing maybe a newsletter to your clients and you give it the prompt like, hey, please check for any grammar or spelling errors. I know I use it for that a lot, just kind of as a second pair of eyes, because sometimes like I think when I'm looking at a piece of work for so long, I can kind of like skip over something like that. So that's also a really useful thing that I think that it's pretty good at flagging any grammar or spelling issues.
Yeah. Jared has an example of somebody using it for customer service, sort of responding to difficult situations. Jared, do you want to share that one? It's the person in leadership in your community. I know you won't want to share too many details, but.
Yeah, I had to step out, but I think I got the gist of what you wanted me to share. So we had somebody in a leadership position in our community that we had to, that I'm on the board of, that we had to, have a conversation with him about his use of AI. He was using it to respond back to his colleagues and using it just on a daily basis. Like you could even see reports to us were all AI generated, and it was very obvious. And we had to have a conversation with him about his use of using AI for some of those critical conversations that probably need to take place more professionally, maybe in person even. Or if you are, people can kind of, like Katie was talking about this, they can pick out how you typically talk if they've known you long enough, and can really pick up that something's not quite right, or it's a more polished email. There's a company that I close contact with, they were having internal problems because everybody was using AI, and there was, conversations around anytime that somebody wanted to make or criticize or, maybe, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but, call somebody out, they would do so with a well-written, AI email. And it was very easy to tell internally that, I used AI to write this, so I didn't sound like a prick, basically. So those are just two experiences that I've had just recently. And so you got to be cautious of how you're using it.
Yeah, I think that that's the point there, is that yes, you can use it for these things, but be cautious about it. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more too. So the third way that we use it quite a bit is for data and analytics. So for me, for ChopLocal, we do an annual survey. And like I said, I double check to make sure that ChatGPT is not using this survey data outside of my own ChatGPT account. But I can upload the survey data in a spreadsheet, and then I can ask it questions. And so, for example, we did an open-ended question that was, what cuts of meat sell the best for you and which cuts of meat don't sell as well for you? And last year when I did the survey, I sat through and went through every question and had to take the time to go through and say, there's somebody mentioned roast, there's somebody mentioned, pork loin, there's somebody mentioned whatever it is. And I had to go through every single one of those individually. This year, I was able to upload it to ChatGPT, ask it the question, and it spit out the response in seconds. I will say that because I had done it in the past, I already knew what I was expecting it to say to some extent. I know that roasts don't sell well. I've known that from previous from previous surveys. And I've also known that from our own ChopLocal experience. But using it to look at that data has been really, really interesting for me, as long as I know that it's making sense. The second way that we have used it is with some of our financial data. And what I mean is, if we, at the end of the year, we need to create a report that says how many sales, what was the total sales volume for each state in the country. And so in the past, we would download all of the orders into Excel. We would sort them by state. There would probably be some formula that totaled it up by state, but that's where my Excel or Google Sheets experience gets limited. Now I can just upload the sheet to ChatGPT and say, I need a total of sales by state. And a few seconds later, it has it for me, and it's amazing. So using it for those types of things, you could possibly use it for your farm expenses. If you make a spreadsheet, it could help you categorize them, things like that. The last, and this is something I've been using it a lot for lately, is for tech issues. A lot of times with the major platforms, meaning Google tools like Google Ads, Meta Ads, some of our email platforms. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but like you're trying to do something online and you look at the help articles, and the help articles are not actually helpful, right? They don't match up with what is actually going on. So then you keep Googling the problem and you end up finding like a Reddit thread or some sort of a forum, some sort of a discussion that might be 2 or 3 years old. And then you're looking for the newest one. And this person tried this and did that work. And this person tried this and that, I have found that if I put it into ChatGPT, it sorts through all of that stuff for me and can help direct me where I need to go. There are a lot of times where it will tell me, go to this part in Google Ads in particular, go here and click on this menu, and I'll say that doesn't exist. It doesn't say tools where you said it's going to say tools. And so then ChatGPT will come back and say, oh, rats, they must have changed things up again. Let me try again. Try it doing it this way. And it will eventually usually get me to a response, but that works, get me to where I need to be. But that has been a lifesaver lately with using different technology things, getting them to connect and talk to each other. And it's been really, really helpful. So we're going to talk about marketing and images and graphics because that deserves its own category. But any other uses for AI that you all are using? While you think, I will say I do use it to interpret medical results. My mom and I both have some health issues and have had a lot of testing going on lately. And so when we get like a radiologist report from an MRI, I will pop that into AI because a lot of times we get that radiologist report immediately, but we're waiting on the doctor to interpret it. So I will put it into AI and say, what does this mean? And AI is usually very comforting in giving me the overview. So any other examples?
Katie, I can
Okay.
give an example of.
Yeah.
So one thing so I run a grain operation. I've got people that I farm their ground or I rent their ground on a crop share lease. So when I get invoices sent to me for like fertilizer, seed, whatever, I've got to break down those invoices by who pays for what, who gets split out percentages. And like a lot of times I'll book all my fertilizer together and then I've got to break it down between 3 or 4 different clients. And we all have kind of different percentages that I have to pay within each of those clients. So I've set up my ChatGPT to understand the percentages per person. And then I will have it read the invoice and then give me the percentage breakdowns to then put into my books and pay accordingly and charge people accordingly. So that's just one example, I guess.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Okay. Marketing. I think that this is where there is a huge opportunity for farms and butcher shops to use AI, but we continue to put out this caveat. You have to edit everything. You have to double check it. Okay. So Product descriptions are a great way to use it. Prompt it to write a mouth-watering product description that will make people want to purchase this. A lot of times it will automatically include some cooking ideas and how to cook it. Again, you want to read through that and know if it makes sense. Like if it is a, if it is a roast and they're telling you to put it on the grill, that may not make a lot of sense. So you want to make sure that it's making sense in there. Social media content, same thing. One way that we use it, instead of just saying, write me social media posts, is we will say, give me 10 ideas of social media posts to promote hams for Easter. And it will give you the ideas, but then you can still put it into your own words, create the post and that sort of thing. So just beware of asking it for the final product, because that's where you're really going to lose your voice and your flavor. And that's where it's going to be super obvious that it was completely done by AI. Email marketing, same deal. I like to ask it for ideas. I will ask it for outlines. And then a lot of times I go in and, it's not to the point where you can say, go into MailChimp and create an email for me. There are possibly ways to do that with AI agents, but that goes more into the, I'm going to say, advanced bucket that we're not ready to talk about yet. And then website copy, meaning the text that is on your website. You can also prompt it to help provide that text. These are all ways that we have used it, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to make sure that you are getting what you want out of it. I will say images and graphics, proceed with extreme caution. We have not had a lot of luck with images and graphics. And I have some photos here or graphics here on the screen that have come from different AI tools. A lot of them look fairly decent, but they have little mistakes in them. Okay, so this one in the upper left-hand corner, it says locally sourced kind of in the background. And if you look really carefully, there are 2 L's at the end of locally, which would be incorrect. Oh, and there's no C in sourced either. Locally soured is what it says, actually. And I have looked at this several times today and I just realized that the C was missing. So that's the risk, is that you look at it and you don't see those little details, but somebody on your social media or on your website does notice them. This series here, kind of in the middle and to the right, was from Facebook's Meta's AI. We did an ad that said, join the herd, free gift for email subscribers. And then Meta created these versions of the ad that we could also put out there. Some of them look absolutely fine. This one says, there's no misspellings on the first 2. And I think that they look fine. The meat looks sort of realistic and it's fine, but it does not use our brand colors. It does not use our brand style. There's nothing about it that says that this is ChopLocal. And so that's where it loses that authenticity and really, to me, falls flat. Then you get into the next examples, and this one says join the herd, fret for email subscribers instead of free. The next one says join the herd for email subscribes. The next one says join the herd for email subscribers. And then it starts to say Oklahoma, but it's OKLLOMA. And then instead of raised, it says RAISDE, which makes no sense. So you get the idea there. It's having a hard time with the words. And then here at the end, we have one of my favorite examples, which is where it has created a 2-headed bovine animal in the picture. I just saw Sierra laugh, which makes me think she did not notice that until I pointed it out, right? I've also seen lately, there's a farm that I saw that's using a lot of AI graphics, and their calves are they look like Belgian blue double muscled, but they're like calves, and it's comical to me because I know what those calves should look like, and theirs look like a cartoonish bull that's short, And so You want to watch out for those types of things. And then the last example here is I tried to create a logo for our Meet Success podcast, and there are just so many issues with it. This was over a year ago. I do think it's getting better, but it was really a struggle, and I gave up on trying to create a logo with AI pretty quickly here. So those graphics and images, we have used some tools successfully, but there's a lot to watch out for. So when you are using AI, your output, meaning what AI gives you, is only going to be as good as the input that you put into it. So here are some tips for when you are prompting AI, meaning this is what you are telling it to do. One of those tips that I used a lot at the beginning is starting out by saying you are an expert, okay? So you are an expert in social media marketing for small businesses who are using organic social. Then give it then give it the rest of the prompt. You're an expert in social media marketing for organic social for small businesses. Give me 10 ideas to market my Easter hams via social media. That is going to help give it context and let it know what you are expecting from it. The second thing to avoid that confirmation bias where it just agrees with you is instead of asking a straight up question like, is it a good idea to do this? Or should I do this? Or what do you think of this idea? If you ask it for pros and cons, it can sometimes be a little bit more balanced. So instead of, should I put my hams on sale before Easter? You could ask it, what are the pros and cons of putting my hams on sale before Easter? What are the things that I need to think about running an Easter sale for hams? The third thing is to ask it for examples or peer-reviewed research. So especially when I'm using it for personal reasons, for health-related things, I will prompt it and say, you are an expert in this field. Use peer-reviewed research to tell me if blah, 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 or to tell me about atrial fibrillation or whatever it may be, okay? And then also giving it examples to work from. So I actually was working on a project earlier, right before we got on here. These are meta ads for West 40 Market, which Teresa is on this call. And here, if you can see my prompt in ChatGPT, I said, using posts from this social media channel, draft 5 meta ads, primary text, which is the text that goes into meta ads, to encourage people to order from West 40 Market online. Try to keep the same voice and brand style. And then I linked to West 40's Facebook page so that it could draw from the inspiration there. It went ahead and it said, based on their Facebook presence, and then in parentheses put family-rooted story, Iowa pride, casual and conversational tone, simple, this is what is happening today style, an emphasis on quality and local sourcing. Here are 5 meta ad primary text options that match the voice and the push to online ordering. I thought it actually did a really good job of summarizing West 40's social media presence. Like, I think that it really does kind of encapsulate, it's very West 40, Teresa's very casual, conversational, that sort of thing. So, excuse me, it went ahead and gave me 5 short ad texts here. I did not ask it to create graphics. I'm not going with that, okay? My plan now is to look at those 5 and choose my favorites. And that's another thing that I do often is like, give me 10 ideas, even though I know that I'm only going to choose 2 or 3 of them in the end. ChatGPT especially will also prompt, sometimes I tell it not to do this because it will prompt you to ask it another question. Like I've asked it before, like, are you just trying to keep me hooked in here by saying, if you want, I can do and do the next thing. And it says, no, I just want to be helpful. And I'm like, I think that you're kind of clickbaiting me, especially on health information. It will do that. Like, if you want, I can tell you the most concerning thing about this report. And I'm like, no, let's stop there. Okay. But in this case, it said, I can tighten these further into high performing meta variations, things like that. I actually want some longer versions. It gave me short versions. So I'm going to say now try 5 longer ones this might be good inspiration. And I'm using a specific post where Teresa from West 40 introduced herself and told a little bit of her story. And if you are listening to the podcast, I'm sorry you can't see this in real time, because the first time that I ever saw ChatGPT do this in real time was so cool. So if you're watching the video, maybe you've seen this before, but I'm going to go ahead and click send on here, and we're going to watch it come up now with 5 new variations that are longer text. And it says, got it. I pulled what I could from their page plus typical posts and leaned into that longer narrative style that they use. Here are 5 longer form meta primary texts that match their voice. This one's got more humor and relatable, which that is totally Teresa too, okay? I have not read through all of these yet. I am not going to use all of them, but I wanted to show you how I could prompt it by giving it examples and actual information from previous successful things that we've worked on here, okay? Plus, I just love watching how fast it was. Like, it just generated that like that, and it gives me a starting point. The other thing that I should maybe have put on here is, like Sierra mentioned earlier, a lot of times we will write things ourselves the first time and then put it into ChatGPT and have it edit it. So I will write the text for a website and put it into ChatGPT and say, do you have any suggestions for this? Or like Sierra said, just have it check the grammar and spelling and commas and anything like that if that's something that you struggle with. Just have it be that extra set of eyes for you. Like we said, it's a fast assistant, very quick to get it looked over. The other thing that I think is really important for you to know about AI is that it gets better over time. So if you sign up for a free account using your email address with these tools, they save information in there and they get to know you. And the more that you have prompted it and told it your style, and the better it's going to get at it. So I early on, one of the dead giveaways for me in product descriptions or even ad text is experience the elevated dining experience of, they use a lot of really flowery text a lot of time, unless you tell it not to. So I would tell it, do not use words like elegance or elevated. Those are the 2 that come to mind for me, but there's a lot of different words that to me are just, I can tell that it's AI and it's not my style. If that is your style and you are targeting, 5-star chefs and high-end restaurants, then that might make sense, but most of us are not. And so that style of writing is not going to make sense. It needs to be more conversational. You can also put in there who you are targeting. I'm writing a post that I want to really resonate with moms who are really busy. And so you put that in there to make sure that you get that. Our favorite AI tools, we use ChatGPT a lot. I hear a lot about Claude and Claude Cowork, which is kind of another step up. And then Gemini is built into our Google tools, but I'm turning it off most of the time. I also use specific tools like Fathom Notetaker. Love my Fathom Notetaker. It's the best note taker I've seen. We use a couple of other tools for our video courses and our podcast. And then we use Canva's AI tools quite a bit as well. One more tip. This is about it. And then I'll open it up if anybody has questions or other use cases. Prompting it for marketing. One of the things that I like to do is, if you're familiar with the Story Brand Framework, you can say, write this using the Story Brand Framework, and it does a decent job of hitting the main elements in there. And then also when we're talking about product descriptions or websites, we prompt it to focus on the benefits to the customer, okay? Why would a customer want to buy these products, or why would a customer want to shop from this farm? Not just a farm history or the basics about the farm. So that was kind of a quick whirlwind all about AI. Well, thank you for joining us. I think that this is going to be a topic that we are going to continue to be learning more about. Jared and I are part of a business group that has a big roundtable tomorrow afternoon about using AI. And also I'm going to a conference in a couple of weeks that has a half-day session on using AI specifically for farm risk management. And so I'm excited to hear about all of the tools out there for that as well.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Meat Success. We hope this episode gave you fresh insights and inspiration to beef up your meat marketing. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social, and share with your fellow farmers and butchers. Have questions or ideas for future podcasts? Reach out to ChopLocalUniversity.com. Until next time, remember, there's more than one recipe for meat success.